Walk me through your final decision, your decision to vote. How difficult was this today?
That's super difficult. The hardest vote I've ever experienced.
Milwaukee's Common Council voting 12-3 this past week to increase the sales tax by 2% to help pay for the city's unfunded pension obligations. Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson signing it into law Friday. Fallout, though, is intensifying surrounding a number of policy provisions as part of the broad shared revenue agreement reached between Governor Tony Evers and Republican leaders. One of the most controversial, prohibiting tax dollars from funding positions related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. That battle now playing out nationally. On Capitol Hill this week, House Freedom Caucus members demanding Congress defund the military's DEI programs as part of negotiations surrounding defense funding. Also, continuing statewide between Republican lawmakers, the University of Wisconsin system, and the city of Milwaukee.
Tim Sheehy is president of the Metropolitan Milwaukee Association of Commerce. Tim, like always, good to see you. Good to have you back.
Good to be with you.
Let's start with this DEI piece. There appears to be this growing divide between some in corporate America. We're going to talk about businesses here in Wisconsin in a second who are expanding DEI efforts, and then some Republicans on Capitol Hill and here in Madison looking to push back and ban it. What is happening here?
Yeah, I think it's a misunderstanding or a misuse of diversity, equity, and inclusion that causes people to challenge it. For most employers, this is a strategy to make their workplaces more hospitable and to allow them to recruit a more diverse population to their workforce. And the demographics are running away from us. There's a workforce shortage. So it's in employers' best interest to have a workplace that's attractive to as many people as they can, and that's why they use these tools.
Earlier this summer, MMAC hosted a DEI summit. It's part of your Regions of Choice initiative. Walk me through what this is, what this involves, and the latest progress on this.
Yeah, so very simply, what we want to do is help employers make this region attractive to all kinds of talent. So we have 125 employers with 120,000 employees sharing best practices to help improve their workplaces and to help improve Milwaukee as a place to live, work, play, and learn for diverse talent. And if you really look at the statistics, if you look at the gap, economic prosperity between white and Hispanic and white and African American, we sit at the bottom of 25 major metro areas. So we want to improve that to help employers attract the talent they need.
And you have benchmarks.
We have very specific benchmarks. These are goals. And so the employers have set these goals. And for management talent, they want to increase their black and brown management talent by 25% over a 5-year period. 3 years in, we're at 26%. For their overall talent, they want to improve by 15%, and I think we're at about 12%. So these goals, they're markers. They're not a ceiling or a floor, but they're markers to help us look at best practices and move down that direction.
When you look at what has become of this politically, have you sensed any hesitation from any company leaders here in Wisconsin to back off, at least publicly, on DEI efforts to avoid any political crosshairs?
No, I haven't. And it's, again, the DE&I efforts for the companies are, how do we make our company more hospitable? How do we recruit as diverse talent as we can? And the tool used that way is very helpful. It can be used in other ways that aren't helpful, but employers, I think, are using it for their bottom line and to make sure that their workplaces are attractive.
Why do you think this has become so political in recent months?
Well, I think it bleeds into a lot of topics. It bleeds into, what people view as taught in schools. It bleeds into what people are viewing as a misuse of discrimination. So there are lots of reasons that people are focused on this. But for the business community, I think, again, by and large, this is not a fad. It's not a trend. It's endemic in how they do business.
What's the threat if DE&I goes away?
Well, the threat is that workplaces, if you look at the workplaces we have today, if you look at workplaces in Wisconsin, just put simply, we are not going to fill those jobs with the white population. It's not growing fast enough. So if that's what your workforce looks like, in the future it's going to look much differently. So how do we make sure that workplace is attractive to black, brown, and other people who are coming into the workforce in a much greater stead than they had been in the past? And let's be blunt about it. There were barriers to those people coming into workplaces, and we want to make sure that there are no barriers.
Are Republicans wrong in going after that in terms of the city and the UW system?
Well, I think Republicans should let the UW system and the city address those issues as they see fit. And I don't think it's an area where the legislature needs to be putting its fingers into either the UW system, quite frankly, or the city or private employers.
Tim Sheehy, president of the Metropolitan Milwaukee Association of Commerce. Like I always, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, a Summerfest spike.